Hi, I'm August Keller, and this is my review of Megalopolis. So, this movie is tough to pin down. It's both admirable and alienating at the same time. It has a lot of themes, but without a coherent plot or drama. So that's tough to connect with. It has like this Shakespearean-esque dialogue that's very difficult to follow. Characters are metaphorical. They kind of symbolize things rather than feeling like people. There are a lot of side threads that don't go anywhere. It's overstuffed. It's got just a lot of things going on, and it wants to say a lot, and it just kind of lacks focus. So it doesn't really end up getting across what it's trying to say very well. And this is strange because it has a lot of these classical narrative devices. Like I said, it's Shakespearean. It feels like modernized Shakespeare in a lot of ways. But it just feels so cold, despite feeling so traditional plot-wise. It's got like these bones that are very traditional, but from scene to scene, it's just the meat of it feels very strange. Almost like a rambling fever dream, which I'm not necessarily opposed to. I like when artists try to be artistic, and they're trying to be real. And there's definitely a lot of artistic ambition here. It might be pretentious, it might be self-indulgent. No matter how misguided you think it is, it's coming from a singular voice, and that voice is trying to say something meaningful. Does it succeed? It's hard to say because it's just so confused. It's so muddled. There's a lot to unpack here. It's almost it's hard to even give it a definitive score. It's hard to even say it's good or bad because it's doing so much at once. It's personal, it's sincere, and it's definitely not commercial. It wasn't made for money. It was made because someone was passionate about it. So I'm conflicted. I don't know if that's obvious. I hope that's coming across, that I am conflicted. And the acting, it's just so hard to assess this. I can't even really pull out just the acting from this because it's just so overshadowed by this material. The script is just so overpowering that it's hard to say if the actors represented what the material was trying to say, because the material, I don't think, even knows what it's trying to say at any given moment. I will say the performances, they aren't tonally in sync. That is for sure. Some performances feel very earnest and dramatic. Other performances feel campy, maybe. So they're not all together, but they're all committed. They're all trying. So there's that. And I do get a sense of personality and some range and some vulnerability in these performances, but it's impossible to connect with anyone because the material is just so opaque. So all of this is to say that Megalopolis is more of like a pile of ideas than a story, and that's off-putting for most people. I try to look past that kind of thing and try to go, just try to see what the movie's trying to say, even if it isn't necessarily entertaining or even enjoyable most of the time. I want to see if I can respect it, but even that is complicated. Technically, I think Megalopolis is very unrestrained, but also very visionary. So again, I'm conflicted here. It has style, certainly. It's applying a lot of craft, but fundamental things like tone and, structure are very unrestrained. So the editing, for example, is a great example of this. There's a lot of flair in the editing. There's split screens and montages, superimposition. It's pulling out every trick in the book, and it's applying them, I would say, correctly. But despite all that, there's just like no momentum to this movie. It feels very like it drags quite a lot. So it's on a micro level, very flashy, the editing, but on a macro level, struggles, even kind of fails. The music is very eclectic and fitting. It uses a lot of different genres, and they suit what's happening, but it's hard to but they don't really connect with anything. There's no emotional impact from scene to scene because the emotions are so confused. How can the music elevate a scene that the viewers are fundamentally disconnected from? The cast has ample fame. There are so many familiar faces, but that's dampened by their questionable cohesion. Are these actors even in the same movie? The effects are abundant, and they create an aesthetic. I would say they're not convincing from scene to scene, but that can be okay. I think a lot of times, the movie is aware that the effects aren't necessarily convincing because they're going for an aesthetic. Like it's like a surreal kind of dreamlike feel to the movie. So having the effects kind of suit that is okay. But sometimes it does feel cheap. Sometimes it does feel distracting. The cinematography is beautiful and creatively composed, but even that is undercut by the muddle messages of the film. It's hard for me to give the cinematography a 10 out of 10 because it's not perfectly matching the material, because it's impossible to perfectly match the material. The sound design is also very strong. There's a lot of symbolic motifs and distortions, a lot of voiceovers. The sound is playing an active role, a lot of emphasis and echoes and things like that. I think the one thing that really truly is kind of impeachable about this movie is the production design. I think, for better or worse, or no matter what you say about this movie, I think you have to admit that the production design is very unique and really kind of withstands the film's shortcomings. It combines like these Roman influences, Art Deco, and surrealism, like I said. There's a lot of symbolic colors like black, gold, red, green. They all mean something. And I think that this aspect of the film really is the clearest, what really shines through and shows what this movie is actually trying to say the best. Because it's about, how empires rise and fall, and, the social, political. That's like really what the themes are kind of coming back to. I don't know if I agree with all the messages the movie's trying to say, but it's interesting, and the production design definitely conveys it the best. I think Megalopolis is kind of paradoxical in a way. It's both good and bad at the same time, even within my categories. Even in a given category, like the editing, I want to give it a 10 for some reasons. I want to give it a 5 for some reasons. So I give it a 7, and I feel like that's not the full picture. So in a way, this movie's almost defies reviewing. It's like you can't review a movie like this because you can't put a movie into a number, and this is the best example of that. I mean, I tried my best, and I hope that this is informative, and I feel like I landed on a number that sums up how I feel about the best I could. So yeah, I'm very conflicted. It's a good movie, a bad movie all at once, and I liked it for certain reasons, and I disliked it for others. And I don't know. I don't know if I'll want to revisit it anytime soon, but I definitely respect it in a lot of ways. But I also feel like it's clearly flawed. So do with that what you will. I can't really necessarily recommend it or not. It's kind of one of those movies where it really depends on the viewer. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. I also have an Instagram linked in the description, which I would appreciate some support there or here or wherever. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.